Hello and welcome back to another brand new Unsourced Radio, and we are continuing our long journey through the VHS franchise. With another two for tonight, we are looking at the end of the original trilogy of VHS movies, VHS Viral, which some say almost killed the series, and I say no. Um, and also the second spinoff, Kids versus Aliens. But we're also joined by a new guest today. Doug unfortunately couldn't make it, so we replaced him with our good friend here, Jade. And we're going to go around and introduce ourselves again and just our basic thoughts on the movie. Just very simple one or two line thoughts on the movie before we get into the segments. But how about Jade? You introduce yourself, your brief history with the series, and also your basic thought about Viral, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Hello, I'm Jade. I'm a huge fan of found footage. It's probably my favorite horror subgenre, and that eventually led me to the VHS movies. I watched all of them with a group of friends earlier in the year, and it's just kind of a bit special for me that every year we get a collection of these shorts, and it's in the found footage style. It's usually the highlights of found footage released that year. At least that's how it's been with the Shutter ones. Are usually some of the highlights for the genre of the year.
That's really cool. And I agree, that these do have their place. And nice that they're an annual event. Shudder really does make a big deal about them. Halloween sounds like it could be interesting by the creative teams and the titles. But what are your thoughts on Viral? Just like basic thoughts on Viral. What do you think of it?
Um, you know, it's probably my least favorite, but I do think there is value to it. I think it has one really good short, and then the other two shorts are just kind of okay, and it also has a pretty good wraparound. So it's probably my least favorite, but that's just kind of because of how good the other ones are.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. But Tony, introduce yourself again and see here. What do you think of Viral?
Hello once again, Unsourced Radio folks. It's me, poor old Rolo Tony on Twitter. And when it comes to VHS Viral, I've been kind of going through and saying how all of these movies have been important to me because I watched them as they came out. And for VHS Viral, I already knew something was in the water. There was a different stink to this one, and it was because it was totally throwing away the VHS in the title, and it was going headfirst into the whole like web era, right? And I felt at the time it really handled that stuff poorly, but it's now more quaint in a modern context. But broad thoughts on the film itself, I just found that there is a real quality control problem. There's people are reaching too far in each of these shorts. Some of these shorts are crying to be a movie, and some of them are demanding to be like 5 minutes shorter. As Jade said, there's one really great segment in this that I'll go to bat for, but the rest of it becomes like a cacophony. It's hitting you in the face with abrasive stupidity at every turn. And while there are moments where I kind of bend to it and I go, haha, okay, I'm with that there. The overall experience is a lot more draining than the previous two entries, and it's surprising because this is one of the shortest ones. But yeah, those are my thoughts on VHS Viral on the outset.
Well, I guess we're gonna be at odds here, because I really, really dug everything you said. It was like a a minus on here because my own thoughts and I know that me and Doug were joking about this last week, and I did not go into this like thinking like I was gonna like it, but I know for these people, this is one that people call the worst one. Very often, I remember seeing like when we used to post about this and doing these streams, people are talking underneath Doug's post and yours post, Tony, about like, oh, this is the worst one, and I gotta say, I do not believe that at all, right? Because I really enjoyed it. I can handle stupidity as long as it is done in what I feel is mostly just good fun. Like none of these are segments that I think are come from a trite place. Like they all seem to like want to be like very kind of upbeat, kind of very corny kind of ideas, and I think they're all handled really well in terms of like just that like just adventurous. And I felt like I feel like this was really on the nail, on the borderline. I mean, of just being either super super annoying or like, you know what, this is just like good like Halloween hangout movie. Just put it on the back. You don't even need to look at it. It's just like you're just being barraged by something new in each one, and I really enjoyed it. I thought this was, probably doesn't have any of the highs, I would say, of the first two, but also is far, far from the lows of the first two and the first, spin-off Siren. So I would say like for this to be the worst one, then some of those other ones have to not exist in their entirety. So I really enjoyed it. But let's go into the segments. We'll hear about what Doug thinks about next week. He was unfortunately out of commission. But we'll get his rankings next week. But let's start with the first segment. We do the wraparounds first here. And it is called Vicious Circles, directed by Marcel Sarmiento, written by TJ Simple, David White, and also Marcel Sarmiento. That's a lot of writers for, that's probably the most writers we've had for a framing device, this one. And I think I understand why, because what I really like about this one is that it kind of takes a break itself during each time it pops up. And it's like the first of the of the uh, of the segments that isn't just someone plugging in a movie into a VHS player. So I really did like it a lot. But so Jade, why don't you describe the wraparound to us and what happens in it?
So in this wraparound, there's a police chase happening with a ice cream truck, and this videographer is trying to get footage of it because he thinks he can make a viral video out of it. And the wraparound just continues with other people trying to film this chase, and I think there's like supernatural stuff happening towards the end. Yeah.
I thought it was probably like I think it's probably going to be like my top 10 segments, honestly, because I think it really does go a lot of places. The first half of I think the first half of the first part of this wraparound is easily the weakest thing, because it felt so cliche, like, oh, like he has too much time on his phone and video recording everything. His relationship with his girlfriend is crumbling, and I think he lives at home, and so his parents are arguing from all the time. Like, this is just so trite and cliche and corny. Like, oh my god, no wonder people call this the worst one. But once that ice cream truck comes into the story and everything like that, I think it really kicks into high gear, because that is some of, like, I think like one of the like most mundane but kind of creepy visual things about this series I've seen so far, at least, because like it's so innocuous, but like the fact that it is just continuous and it is just unending, unreachable. No one can catch up to it. The only times you see anyone getting close to it, it's like they're hanging from the back or hanging from a door or something like that. You don't see a complete picture of it, and I think that really helps it along. And what I meant before is that it kind of feels like it breaks up, and that's probably why it has so many writers, is because it kind of takes breaks. As you mentioned, other people are filming, so it kind of segues into different stories. Like, you have like this other podcasting or video casting group that the main character kind of butts heads with, and then one of them dies a really, really stupidly ridiculous death because his legs explode, and then you have the one where like they get like this really, really like stereotypical like Hispanic gangbanger barbecue that kind of goes awry and descends into chaos. And then you have the sleazy backdoor dealing like pornographer, like legal revenge porn stuff, and like he gets it gets into like a little bit of a scrape there, and they all die. And I really liked. I thought it kept moving, it kept propelling things forward. It kept evolving and developing. I love like the chaos of that. It's all really stupid and cheesy, but I don't know. I felt like it really ended up in a cool place. What about you, Tony? Anything about this wraparound?
Yeah, well, I think that it's an improvement over the first two in the sense that there's more going on in this segment, right? Like I feel like in the first two it was the same, just like we're gonna sit down, we're gonna watch these tapes and watch it happen, right? And I do think that the idea of making a more involved wraparound is something that works and is taken into future segments, except for the army soldier one, which is a personal favorite just in how stupid it is. But when it comes to how it operates, I think that I would be interested in understanding if they had made this wraparound as long as it was after they had decided to cut the cut segment that's not in this movie, right? Because it definitely feels like there are more diversions, right? There's a version of this that could have been a bit more streamlined just to be the wraparound. Instead, we get these, side stories with like the cookout as well as the taxi cab near the end, right? My problem with this segment is that anytime that we dwell with a character for too long, the writing is just so poor and often stereotypical that I don't want to be there, right? So it's like I'll have a really good setup, right, where you've got people who are looking over on this ice cream truck and they're saying stupid things, and one of them falls over the railing and dies, right? In concept, I really like that idea. I really like how it plays out, even, right? But something in the way that it's written, something in the way it's performed, even in the effects, which there's a lot of effects in this short, and most of them look really cheap, even like more cheap than the shorts that we get later on. And also, I felt like, in the first half of the segment, it's almost like the dead wife scenario, where you're getting all the flashbacks, right? And it's the simpler time. And then when we get to the ending, it actually does work. But the problem is that it reminds me so much of another film that I've actually brought up on the first episode of this series, 2007 Signal. This whole short is essentially a worse version of that movie. And that movie is also an anthology film. And it just takes this idea and it fleshes it out so much more. And, I'm not trying to, discredit the enjoyment you guys had from it, but I would highly recommend that both of you guys watch The Signal later, because
I will.
it evokes this short.
I definitely agree, and my main thing is like nothing of what you're saying is wrong, especially like I think definitely the people on the overhang bridge are probably the worst written of the entire segment of the entire movie, really. They're like the way they're acting, it feels like did they just round up anyone, like these people in a contest to be in the movie, like be in the final VHS, because that's how they feel like, the ones on the bridge. They look like horror fans, I would say, like, oh, did like a convention, did the convention leave out, because it feels like, get some regular-ish people, like just normal people, like normal kind of like everyday, because it does feel like non-act. They feel like actors. They feel like they're putting something on, but everyone does, really, like the sleazy pornographer. It looks too much like a sleazy pornographer. The gangbangers, like so much like stereotypical gangbangers. It's like they really did raid a party city somewhere, It's crazy. So nothing about what you're saying was wrong, but I did like that it kept on having these diversions, because the whole brunt of it is meant to be like you're seeing these things descend into chaos, So you're spreading, nothing safe. Everyone's becoming more and more violent, more and more psychotic, more and more infected by whatever is going on with video. Video killed the planet star, whatever. But so I enjoyed that. I really like the escalation of that. And at the end, like, yeah, when he finds out his girlfriend is dead all along, or at least was. How did her corpse get there? I don't fucking know.
How did he not see it before he got in the van?
It was on the other side of the door. It was on the other side. It was logic.
Oh,
It's
Doi.
right. Um, like, but I really do love that kind of stuff, even if it's not done really well. I like the kind of the imagery and like like just the idea, the concept of it. I would say, 'cause, like, the body was never there, and then you see like the cut off hands are the ones driving the car all the time. So was there ever anybody there, or was it just the hands the entire time? I love that shit. Um, but yeah, no, nothing about you said it wrong. I just loved all of that. And it reminded me of a movie I saw, and I'm not sure if any of you guys seen this one. And I don't recommend it at all. But it reminded me a lot of this movie called Antisocial. Okay, which is about
Oh, I never watched that one.
Facebook becoming self-aware and turning people into zombies. And it is the most boring movie I've ever seen in my fucking life because nothing happens. Everyone's like, "Oh man, there's zombies outside. We shouldn't turn on our laptops and check our Facebook feed." That's the entire fucking movie, and it's so boring. They made a sequel that's actually a lot better. But the first one's so let's remind me of that, like the social media, the fact that want to become viral, want to be put on this kind of performance, want to live on digitally. It kind of felt like that in a way. So I enjoyed the tonalities of that. But I think it's really fun. I'm gonna put it right here. What was it called again? Vicious Circles. I'm gonna put it. Okay, this is tough. Um, I'm gonna put it right after Ryan the Park, but before Tape 49. Borderline between the stuff I really like and the stuff I think is really really bad and boring. Okay, how about that? Vicious Circles goes right there.
I think Under Ride in the Park is fair insofar as I really like A Ride in the Park, and I'm glad it's above this short.
All right.
I'm the same way.
So Jade, any other thoughts about this one?
Not really. Since I wasn't in the last two episodes, I'm not going to rank it compared to the other ones. So I'll just say what I think of each one and where I would place it as we go.
No problem, no problem. But my favorite thing about this one is that because it ends with the end of the world, all the other ones have to be set before like 2012. All the other VHSs, which I think
all the operating systems match that too. It's really
Yeah.
funny.
So I gotta say, I think that that's a big missed opportunity because, like as I mentioned in Antisocial 2, it's set in an apocalyptic world where everyone's like trying to rebuild society, but without using Facebook. So like, oh my god, Facebook, oh my, that cursed website and all that kind of stuff. And I feel like they should just do that with the VHS set after this one. Just like even have segments like people will find video cameras like you can't use video cameras, it's cursed technology. Just do it. Just do it. I don't give a fuck. That's a missed opportunity. Cowardly of them. All right. So let's get into the first one. So let's see here. Tony.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay, so this one is directed by your favorite director. You've always had great words to say about him. It's called Dante the Great, directed and written. Ooh, maybe that's why it's better because Siren wasn't entirely written by him. Greg Bishop, Dante the Great. Take it away. Let us know what this is about.
Unfiltered vision.
Yeah. Like the table.
Yeah, so Dante the Great is probably the most like misguided attempt at a VHS segment in the whole franchise, in my opinion, and I'm not saying that because this is like totally irredeemable. I think that there are some things about this short that are really fun, but it just tries to do too much in so many different directions that it becomes something that this franchise just isn't, and I'm not a franchise purist, I'm fine with people playing outside with the box. This just does it in the most boring ways possible. How does it do that? I'll tell you the plot. Here it is. So Dante the Great, it's like a mockumentary about this like mind freak, but more Burt Wonderstone leaning figure who, he was kind of a nobody who was at a trailer park. And then he stumbles upon a cape that was literally owned by Houdini. And then he gains these magical powers that nobody understands because it's actually magic. He starts to, bring this younger woman under his wing. She's thinking that he's going to impart his magic gifts onto her. He's under the impression that he's going to date her. The big problem is that she has like an abusive ex. And, the weird thing about this short is that it's kind of lulling you into this very slowly. And then all of a sudden when it reveals this, everything is moving quickly. We have like the SWAT. They all of a sudden are aware of Dante the Great, harming the ex-boyfriend. And then it turns into this massive action sequence where Dante the Great's fighting against the cops, and then they're fighting against their assistant because, they're aware of their powers. And then Dante gets eaten by his own cape. And the question of where Dante is this big question mark. My big issues with this short, first off, we've talked about on several of these episodes how the format really matters. And this is probably the only short really that has like non-found footage coverage. And it doesn't really make the attempt to describe or show how these angles are being covered. And for that alone, I feel like that's like, banished to the shadow realm, right? Because even though there are cool moments of the action sequences, the fact that we're getting these like, shots that are from the corner, just kind of watching what's going on, it feels like a massive cheat, and it like when you're watching something that's supposed to be a found footage film, you want to have that. And then also my other problem is, even though I hated Siren, right, I would much rather see a Dante the Great film. There's enough meat on this bone to sustain a full feature. And by the time we see everything happen in this, it just feels so rushed. And while I hate Dante the Great himself, the fact that it's just another abusive guy, a constant theme throughout this whole franchise, this abusive guy who's trying to get with this girl as well as the abusive boyfriend that she was with, while I don't like them, I want to see more of this world. You give me this idea of this magician gone bad. You invoke Houdini, right? You're putting a lot of importance on a short that's meant to be in and out. And the importance put on this short without it kind of backing that up, it just falls so flat to me. Like, think about Safe Haven from VHS 2. It's just in the middle of the movie. Right. It's just like, here it is, right? This feels like a statement. And when the statement is said, I'm left, kind of just going, all right, sorry for ranting a bit, but this is a interesting short, but I
love what you're saying.
Like it, but I like it, I like elements, what I mean?
I love what you're saying, because we were talking about this, me and Jay, before we started recording, but you're right, because one thing we talked about with Safe Haven is that how, and all the ones we think are really good, one of the common things is how grounded and sincere they are in actually like utilizing the aesthetic and like the reality of filming something, verisimilitude, as Donner would say. I think it's like a great term for that, right? Safe Haven is chock full of, we're talking about like all the tricks, all like the visual angles, all like the timing of it. It's all really, really well done. It really sucks you in, even though it's a really ridiculous premise. You're really engaged on the found footage level for it. And then, the Dante the Great is like, and even the first one, we talk about the flashbacks, like the whole, that really abuses the let's go back to the framing device again. That one really abuses the scratchiness of this recording shows something from before, like to like the degree,
on an MP4.
Yeah. I miss my girlfriend so much. Scratch, happy memory of the girlfriend. Like, this is it's so shameless. And Dante the Great does that as well. And not even like who was filming these angles, but like I think there's like one or two just straight movie shots. Like, this is just not even pretending to be like, this is just like an out of like universe, out of format kind of shot and scene. That happens like I think once or twice, and that's hilarious. But Jade, what do you think about Dante the Great?
For me personally, you can hear me, right? Hello?
Loud and clear. Yeah, no, you're perfect.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, no, it wasn't showing on my end that I was talking. My bad.
No, it's all good. Go for it.
So, I think the short, I agree with you, Tony. I think this could have been a full film. I think there's a lot more mythology you can explore with this. And I think that for the time constraints they had, they probably did what they could, but it's definitely not a favorite of mine. As was said before, Dante and the X are both terrible people, but to me, they're not even interestingly terrible people like the gang from the first movie, from the wraparound in that, because I think those guys are at least interesting. I don't think either of these guys are. I think the idea's there. I think there's some really interesting things you could say with this concept. And again, I think they tried. I just don't really think it worked.
I find it interesting that both of you think that this could have been longer or like a movie. And I gotta say, I don't think that at all. I know I was describing before we recorded. This felt to me like a Goosebumps episode, but raunchy, Like this felt like this is like this could have been shorter. When you mentioned that some of them could have been like 5 minutes shorter, I thought you were talking about Dante the Great. Because like I think anything goes on too long. Because then not only do you have the shootout, you have the ending, and then you have the epilogue that's a jump scare ending. Like, come on, man. What are we doing here?
Look, I don't disagree in the slightest, right? But I want to echo something that Jay just said, right? Where it's like these guys that are in this, and specifically Dante, right? Like is portrayed so poorly in this, right? Like, think about it. We have the concept of a guy who goes from rags to riches, literally from a trailer park. Now he's like on Vegas all the time doing a residency, right? Like there is so much to mine from that alone, right? This idea of somebody who's so totally transfixed. The problem isn't so much, the thing is like, you're right in saying that, the way that the short is presented to us, it doesn't have a lot of meat on its bones, but the concept itself has something that can be taken to feature length. The problem is that the constraints of the short itself are weighing on it at all times.
I agree. If we're going to that level, like the conceit of like someone who goes around to riches and has like this thing they have to deal with and all of that, that's just Little Shop of Horrors. Just watch Little Shop of Horrors.
You're not wrong.
So I feel like, yeah, we gotta take the short as it is, and not to like think anything out, but like I'm talking about mythology and all of that. I feel like that's probably where they kind of went with Siren, and I don't want to do anything like, no, just leave it as it is. I don't want to delve into mythology and sound we're looking at magic pimps, running a magic brothel, like just leave it where it is, but no, I really like that Dante is kind of this really shitty guy because I like that he stays like a dumbass the entire thing, he's this trailer park guy, very stereotypical, I'll admit, and then he just kind of stays at that kind of emotional attitude and maturity even after he's conviction famous. Like, I like that he's just static, because it just kind of shows that he's not really doing anything at this. He's just relying completely on like this cheat he's found with the cape. So I got some enjoyment out of that, but it is very flat. Like, all the characters are flat. I would say this is the weakest segment of the entire movie, and including the wraparound, this is weaker than that even. It reminded me so much of the Creepshow TV series that Shudder ended up doing, and they ended up doing more of VHS films as well, as we've talked about. But if you watch the Creepshow TV series, it is like the most, oh, hoy, aren't we doing a Creepshow TV show? I'm going to act over the top because this is comic booky. And it kind of feels like that. Again, Goosebumpsy. It feels like it's trying to be a little campy, but not really going in a full direction there. I enjoyed it just, because it is very simple. But it doesn't annoy me too much. It's simple, straightforward, doesn't annoy me too much, and it's out here. It's definitely the weakest of the film for me, though. Definitely the weakest.
I don't know if it's the weakest for me. I actually think that a short that comes later in this film, not one that's been cut, will take that crown. But when it comes to
oh no,
what,
oh, no,
like I'm playing my hand a little hard there. But the thing with the way this one just kind of sits and resonates, it's ultimately, like you brought up the pimp right from the Siren movie, and Dante the Great just kind of feels like that pimp, and it feels like Greg Bishop only has that kind of mode where everything.
You're right. Oh my god! Oh my god! Justin Wellborn, who plays Dante the Great, played the pimp.
I knew it. I knew their hair color was different, so I didn't want to say, but it's just like
he's
I
definitely older. Mm-hmm. Oh my god! He had no ideas. He has no ideas.
he just likes that actor, and the actor is just not really that good, right?
Oh,
And also something I wanted to get to was the cape itself, right? Because think
it's
about it
so
this way, right?
corny.
It's really corny, and also like every time like the cape eats someone, right? Because like the big threat of this is that like you see Dante the Great like have sex with a woman and then throw the cape onto them, and the cape eats her, right? And the thing I thought of was in Ed Wood when Bela Lugosi has to go into the water and he's
So
got the tentacles on himself and he's just going like that's what the cape feels like every time it's the villain, right? And magicians have a lot of different things. Did it have to be the cape? Could it have been the wand? Could it have been the hat? Could it have been anything else? I feel like the cape was so lame.
budgetary. It's definitely budgetary. What you're saying, like, oh, we just have the kids. But that's what makes it feel Goosebumpsy, because Goosebumps always has like some sort of really really cheap and easy kind of thing to give you, like the haunted mask or some shit. Like, yo, no, like I can't get it off. Of course you could, and you're not fooling me. It's not really. It's not really that threatening. Definitely right. But also, I want to bring up Justin Welborn also catapulted to fame by playing this iconic role in an iconic horror franchise in Final Destination 4 as racist man.
Oh,
I was gonna bring
who's
that up.
guy?
He's
I was
that
gonna
guy.
bring that up. I was gonna bring that up.
I'm like, is that the racist guy? And I like the entire thing. I'm like, is that the racist guy? Because he looks so. Of course it is. Man, that guy cannot act, or maybe he's not acting. Oh, so good. But
Wow,
yeah,
he's the worst part of the worst Final Destination movie.
but he's also part of. Apparently, he has a role in The Signal. So I guess we're gonna see him again when we watch that movie.
Oh my god! Wait, hold on. Did you just add The Signal to the lineup?
Oh, okay, we might have to. It's called. We're going to look maybe near the end. We'll look into it. But yes, Jade, any thoughts about racist man?
It's really funny when he gets dragged by his own truck. Final Destination 4 is like an ironic favorite of mine. Like it's a movie that
Oh no, it's too much
it's a
for me.
movie that I think is really entertaining. I think it's a great horror comedy if you look at it in that lens.
I try to, but like I just get so annoyed. That is my VHS viral. I borrow something from Tony. It is too aggressively annoying for me. Bloodlines
That's
is
fair.
like what if 4 was still bad but also just fun and not annoying. That's what Bloodlines is for me. I don't like Bloodlines that much, but at least I think it's really funny. All right. So nothing else to think about Dante the Great other than like who was filming that? It reminds me of the Simpsons gag, where or like Lisa does her own, as baby does her own, changes her own diaper, and the therapist is like, who was filming that? And almost like stationary camera. That's how it felt like every time.
I came up with something while we were having this conversation, something that could have fixed this very easily, right? Because like this is a mockumentary that we're watching, right? Like we're watching people being interviewed after the fact. What if like whenever they couldn't find a way to actually do coverage within that segment, why didn't they just do like a dramatic reenactment?
That would have been so good,
right? Like, and it would have been cheap. It wouldn't have like added cost to the segment. If, a matter of fact, if they did a reenactment, you could do it cheap, and there would be an excuse for it, right? So, like, I feel like there's a lot of wasted potential here. It's why I would like to see this as a film.
That would be great as a film. That idea would be great as a film. I'm behind that. Give me hiccups. So let's move on to the next one, which I guess means it's my turn. If you look at Parallel Monsters, directed and written by Nacho Vigalondo, who is very famous for making Time Crimes, everyone's favorite movie. And let's see here. This is one that grew for me. This is one I remembered most from the last time I watched Viral, which I remembered I did. I just wasn't really invested in it. But Parallel Monsters, just to get off from it, it is the story of an inventor who creates a doorway to a parallel universe in his basement, and he, at the same time, obviously, someone from a version of him from an alternate universe has also done it. So they create a bridge together using those two, and they're like, you know what, this sounds like a really interesting thing to do. Let's they're like, let's just explore for like 15 minutes just so that we can, find out some things and just really kind of take advantage of this huge discovery that we've done. And it basically rips off like three different Outer Limits episodes, in one go. But it turns out that it's an evil universe, and stupid, so stupid. That worse of Satan, everyone's like a mutated demon, monster, and and on the other end, the demon version of him is like, what? They got married like with white dresses. Isn't this so silly? How good this universe is. Um, and I had a lot of fun with this one. And I did like the way it cut back and forth because obviously they're both filming, so I like the way that they did parallel monsters. So they show like everything in parallel, and so the same basic kind of interactions and connections happen. I really enjoyed all of that. It's corny, it's stupid. It would have felt right at home in like again Outer Limits or like the 2000s version, which I'm pretty sure rips off. I did like two episodes that really reminds me of. I would track down. I liked it a lot. What do you think of it, Jade? What do you think of Parallel Monsters?
Um, this it's not the worst thing ever. It's definitely my least favorite in this movie and probably bottom 5 of the franchise for me. But I also don't think it's the worst thing ever.
And go into it. What you like and what you didn't like? Come on.
Um, you know, I the whole like evil universe thing is kind of ridiculous, and it just this one, it's difficult for me to remember anything from this one, and I just watched it like a few days ago.
I don't blame you because it is very, very generic. Don't worry about it. If you think of something pop in, Tony, what do you think about Parallel Monsters? Is it as good as Time Crimes?
Oh, most certainly not. And Jade, I sympathize with you because, like, by no means, like, I'm gonna say some really positive things about it, but I'll also say, like, I don't think that it's like going to be like one of the best of the franchise or anything like that. Like I like this one, but it's because it's surrounded by trash, right? Even if you have this ranked really low on the whole segment franchise, right? But for me and this short, we've talked about how weirdly perverted previous films have been in the series and how it tries to tackle like dynamics, right? Like from gender specifically. And I feel like this one is the most mature and the most successful in what it's trying to do, but it's still messy as hell. It's still not sticking the landing. And the thing, what I'm getting at there is like, while this parallel universe stuff is really fun, I think the core of the story, kind of being about like somebody who's obsessed with their work, who leaves their wife on the back burner, and then how that's a revenge in that sense, right? I like that. I would like to see that built upon a bit more and actually fleshed out a bit more. Right?
Yeah.
That's the major flaw of this short. It's actually more interested in the world building of the parallel universe, which, like, while I like the breadcrumbs we get, while I like the inverted cross, I like the bag that he's just kind of sat in front of, and it's like, come on, are you gonna fuck it or what? All of that stuff is interesting, but I feel like you could have just left it at the genital monsters, like and I feel like it's going too far in trying to go, like, I'm not saying going too far in terms of like pushing too far in places. It's in the scope of a short. I feel like there are so many different ideas, and I like the ideas. The problem is it should have really drilled into the dynamic between Mateo and Marta and I forget the name of the main guy.
Let me look it up. Alfonso.
Alfonso, yes, I remembered it was a great, Spanish name in that sense, and also I wanted to say there's a lot of Spanish representation in this film, just in general across all shorts, which I found interesting.
Yes,
But
I love those. I love those Latino gangbangers who are like, yes, yes, oh, hoo, like, put,
the most stereotypical,
just get some maracas in there, and we're all set. But no, I
we
agree.
literally see like people dressed in mariachi clothing in the Dead Storm, Bone Storm segment later, which I also found funny in that sense. But also just on this short itself, right? Like you brought up time crimes, right? And you were like, oh, is it as good as that? Absolutely not, right? But I'd say this was a better experience than watching Extraterrestrial. I thought that movie kind of sucked. I wouldn't say that this is like anything beneath Nacho, and I feel like if it were in a better VHS film, it would probably be one of the weaker segments. But because it's surrounded by everything else, it kind of is better. So it's why it's my favorite short of the movie. But yeah, that's where I'll leave it.
I definitely back you up on this being one of the better shorts of this movie. I think it is after Dante Gray, like, okay, this is all it's gonna be. I do like that this goes for broke a lot more. And I do love the world building, as you mentioned. That's why I love the parallel stuff, because that I think helps the world building a lot. Especially when like you have one Nacho look at his lovely picturesque wedding photo, and then one Alfonso look at the wedding photo, and the other one in the same place. So it must have you implicitly some sort of significance there of the bag of bloody bits and body parts. It's like. So there is like, what does that mean? What do you infer from that? Like, is that also a marriage kind of thing? Does marriage exist here? I mean, are they just coupling? Obviously, they're swinging, and there's some sort of like body mutilation kind of thing going on when you're swinging. How do the snake, and clump, parts work? Like, can they have sex regularly? Is it, or is that because there's that body mutilation stuff? That seems to be going on.
I don't want to be like too crass or cruel, but it's also like the way that this short is framed, right? Like the thing is that the parallel universe seems to be built around like a deity that that they're all kind of worshiping, and the deity itself is satanic, right? And there is a sense that pain is pleasure, like when he comes back in the house after he gets into the fight with the two Oreo guys, Oreo. I don't know what their name was specifically.
Oriole, like the bird.
Oriole. There we go. I'm sorry if I said Oreo, but at the same time, I think I'm just going to keep calling them Oreo because it's funnier. But he fights them. He stabs one of them with a screwdriver, and he runs back in, and he's covered in blood. And his wife is like, "Oh, like no problem there." Right, like she's in the mood to fuck after that, right? So to me, this says that violence is a form of pleasure here, right? So it like that when you're talking about how these things work and all that stuff, right? The fact that they have these vaginal and testicular monsters that are coming out and have their minds of their own, right?
Parallel monsters, if you were.
Mm-hmm. You know what? There was the bag there, right? Like maybe the bag was just for the penis to munch on, right? And in that universe,
yeah,
right? And in that universe, right? Like they have those two other guys over, right? Maybe the idea of sexuality is so different in terms of just like, okay, we enjoy this all together because it's in service of this creature, the satanic being that they're all in service of, right? But I'm more interested in how it relates to like the prime couple, right? Because the thing that this could have been is like how he's so obsessed with this machine and he's not sleeping with his wife, right? And I feel like they don't set that up enough up front. They give you like a scene, and I feel like that's just like a mind that's not been tapped enough for its potential.
Yeah, especially since like after like the reveal of like the penis monsters, that entire they stopped showing stuff from like the regular universe end, and so that's really I feel like that is a missed opportunity, because you do get like this fight scene from regular Alfonso in the demon universe, and you don't really get anything from the wife at the end. Maybe that's to keep up suspense, but I think that would have been really cool to see like how that was handled, because he shows up bloody too, and the wife is bloody when we see her. The regular wife is bloody when we see her at the end. So what happened? Like, what was going on? I feel like that would have even been more suspenseful to see that, because then there's more of a dramatic irony thing going on, you know. But I enjoyed the ideas. I think that this one could have been extended longer, just to like have those elements be in there. But it's a fun time. I first saw this one, I thought this is a corny idea I've seen a long time before, but I do like that it really does kind of reach for different things. It really goes all out in a way that I don't think. And similarly to Safe Haven, not excessively, but it does go all out in a way that I think is akin to that.
I think you're right in the excess, comparing it to Safe Haven, right? Because Safe Haven's just like balls to the walls, we're going nuts, and there's a moment in this short where it tries to do that, and it does it to varying degrees of success. The thing about Nacho Vigalondo is that he is really good at the little beats as well as just fleshing out the characters, and he's actually more tactful in fleshing out characters than he is in just setting up the beats, right? And for the interesting thing about this short is that it feels like it's more interested in the beats than the characters. And then I had invoked Extraterrestrial before. That film's more interested in the characters than the beats. So it's interesting because they're close in when they were made, as well as like how those priorities were mismatched. And it's a thing that this whole short, it has potential to be a bigger thing, or to at least have its priorities in different places. But ultimately, I like what it's trying to do. And as I was saying before, we've seen so many of these, attempts at commentaries on the differences between genders between VHS films, and it's been very much so rooted in like the male centric perspective. At least at some point, like in this short, it's at least trying to have some better commentary on this. Like the fact that like Alfonso just like completely disregards his wife at all points in this. Like you literally have him punching out his wife in this, right? Which is like a shocking moment, right? And in the context of the scene, you're like, oh, he's trying to get away, right? But it's like, I like the way I interpret the short, I don't see the two different Alfonsos as different.
Yeah, of
I
course.
see,
That's great. You're really great. Go ahead. Yeah, I'm just agreeing. I
yeah.
like where you're going.
The thing that like I'll wrap it up after this. I know I've been ranting a lot, but
No, it's great.
the thing about the two Alfonsos in this is that like I never see them as two different people, but rather like the extensions of the same problems.
Mhm.
And the parallel version of him is terrible. He's taking pictures of his girlfriend asleep, right? But I feel like it's, as you would see in the parallel universe, it's just like a amplified version of whatever was already there,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
it's like a really interesting way of doing that. And I'm glad you brought up like Outer Limits and other anthology films or shorts or TVs shows, in terms of like, you could have gone further in terms of just like making those differences pronounced, or seeing those
Mhm.
different differences in universes in other shorts represented better. But, this one still makes the attempt, and it's a better attempt that we've seen with other VHS shorts.
Yeah. No, I did like what you brought up about the Alfonsos being very similar. Again, the short is called Parallel Monsters for a reason, and I do like that, like for what they've done and where the universes are, both of them aren't good people, respective to where they were. Obviously, the wives felt very neglected, but like, oh, it's an evil universe. So Kate actually became neglected? No, because in the context of that evil universe, her being neglected still isn't right, even though she's like a horrible demon monster. That doesn't make it right. And him neglecting his wife in the main universe, it's also not right. So they are extensions, as you're right, of the same idea of, and it kind of also tethers back to time crimes. It has this other idea of like you're neglecting your partner, you're not taking them into consideration, you're taking them for granted. So I like how that idea plays out across universes, but to different extents, because the universes themselves are different. One gets eaten by a vagina monster, and one gets stabbed, but at the end, I like how they had that interplay. I think that's pretty good.
Well, their ultimate sin was making the machine, right? Like that's what I like about it, right? Is that like the concept of them being so obsessed with their work that they ignore their partner to make this thing, and whatever that means for Prime Alfonso, right? If we're delineating them, I guess he's Prime Alfonso. What his ultimate sin is just like not being present, right? And I like that it's so slight, you know. I like that. That's the thing that his ultimate sin that's worthy of death is. It's puritanical, I guess, in a sense, but at the same time, that's what all of these morality plays are supposed to be. Ultimately, right? It's like the one mortal sin that causes your downfall, and I feel like this captures that a bit more. I don't want to put you on the spot, Jade, but you said you didn't really care for the short, and I feel like we've been going on about this of why we appreciate it. I just wanted to hear the counterpoint. If you've got any, if you don't have any, you can.
Yeah, no, it's totally fine.
Don't worry, but go for it if you do.
You know, like it's not bad at all. I just didn't find it super interesting. Is really the brunt of it.
That's fair.
I don't know, just didn't do a lot for me. But I appreciate hearing where you two come from. I really like what you have to say on it. It definitely makes me look at it in a different perspective. And yeah.
I'm totally fine with that too. I enjoyed it. I think that Hughes with Vigalando's other work, again, like even if you take Colossal and stuff, it's all about, the limits of what men do. Time crimes and Colossal and this like what
I've
like
never seen any of his other stuff. I
really
should probably get on that.
Time crimes is like this, as I was mentioning, very similar to this about science and neglecting your spouse and like what are you willing to do, like how, like where the line where the person you think you are is, in terms of morality. I think I think it really does come across a lot better, but it's same themes.
And I wanted to go to bat for Colossal because Colossal is from the perspective of the woman.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I feel like it does that really, really well. So, like I'd say, like those two films, Jade, you're not losing. Those are two great movies. If you want to watch more Nacho after this,
yeah, again, they pull from those themes as well as Parallel Monster, but like they're a lot more expanded, a lot more depthy, a lot more nuanced about it. So I think it's a really
I'll definitely look into them. I'm currently recovering from surgery, and all I've been doing is watching movies 12 hours a day. So I have time.
Good.
Hey, now's the time to do it. You got your next double feature planned.
Yeah, okay. I just did it. Talk about it at the end, maybe.
So let's see here. Who described? Well, I described Parallel Monsters, right? So I guess we're up to Bone Storm, directed by Justin Benson and Aaron Scott Moorhead, written by Justin Benson. I think it's Jade's turn again. Describe Bone Storm.
All right, so some punk-ass, annoying-ass kids from Southern California want to film a skate video, and they go down to Tijuana, and they end up finding zombies, skeletons, cult people. It's kind of with that, but they have to fight them to try to survive, and they're in like a what's it called? What's the thing that they're fighting in called? Like a canal.
Yeah.
And they're fighting these things in a canal, and it's the fight sequence is, to me, very entertaining.
It's redonkulous. Okay.
Oh, it's so silly. But yeah, this is my favorite short from this movie. I don't know if that's a controversial take in the fan base or not, but yeah, no, I really like this one. This one's a lot of fun, and this and the wraparound is what makes this movie worthwhile for me.
Well, I really loved it. I feel like I will always go to bat in this series for sincerity. Okay. And so the fact of the matter is that this short has these really annoying teenagers who have no I have no qualms with anything. They're super abrasive. They're super stupid. They're super over the top and annoying. And the everything about the short reflects that. And like I love the way that they're out there trying to do like a cool skate tricks video. And so the filming of the short and the editing of the short reflects that too. I'm like, this is working on all levels for me in terms of the story, in terms of the tone and the characters. They're all on the same level of ridiculous, and it's like a perfect mix for me. I love how ridiculous it is, of how corny it is, how cheesy. It's all at the great level for me. I love the flash frames and like the zoom outs and like the action impact frames, and they're doing the fight scenes. It is amazing. And I love it. I love it a lot.
It did a lot for me because I'm a bit of a nerd for like skate videos and stuff from that extent, from like the late 90s, early 2000s. Like I'm a big fan of CKY, for example. I've even met Bam Margera before.
Oh hell yeah.
So like that kind of stuff, like that's my shit. So to see a VHS segment be kind of a tribute to that was really neat, and that's why it's one of my favorites in the series.
What'd you think, Tony?
I hate to be the Debbie Downer. You both are really loving this, and I there are definitely positive things I will say about this segment as we continue, but this was probably my least favorite segment in the whole movie. I've seen this called the worst VHS short. I've watched a couple of like VHS
ridiculous.
Yeah, and I'd say I disagree with them. I feel like there are even shorts that we've watched in previous entries that are worse than this. But that being said, my biggest issues with this is like it's a series of missed opportunities, right? And before I get into any of this, like I just wanted to say on the outset, they go to Mexico and then they have the Mexico filter.
Yeah,
it's really funny, but I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean,
like,
but the short is so
really
cool.
funny.
Short is over the top to begin with. Now, whatever.
Like I'm not even saying that as a negative. I just want to throw that as an idea. Like this is true about this, right? My big problem is that like Jade, I agree with you that I should say I relate to you in the sense that like I was a huge fan of like skate videos and stuff, and that whole scene. The thing is you probably have better experience in that field than me. I was more of a person who was on the sidelines going, yeah, rather than partaking in any of it, right? But for me,
I didn't skate. I'm in the same position as you. I have physical problems that prevented me from being able to actually skate, so I just got really into like watching people skate.
Sure, yeah, but like I guess then we relate then on that sense of just like kind of appreciating it as the art form that it is, and you can say that skateboarding is art, and also the capturing of that, right? My big thing is that why is this all during the day? Why is this all so washed out? Why is this like so like basic,
what?
Right? Like, and also like the way that it's captured. Like, why is it on GoPros? Why don't we like out of all of the VHS franchise episodes that could have been told with tape, this was the one that was dying to be told on tape, right? And the thing is that I really admire that it does feel like two guys shooting the shit and then it goes wrong. I really like the when they get into the fight, the speed ups and the slowdowns. But then the big question for me again comes into like, how is this assembled? Who is this for? The format itself doesn't like exactly. And while I do like it from a momentary, here are these like GTA death screens, when you get the skulls knocked off, right? It still feels like missed potential at points. Like I would have loved for this to be at nighttime on a fisheye lens with a lot of lens flare, shot on DV tape, and have it so it's like, you could still have it so you have all of these different elements of skulls and the shrine and all that stuff. but it just doesn't come together so much for me. And also, like, I don't like. I like the fact that there is, like, they play the music and they start to fight. I don't want that music to be overlaid onto the footage itself. I want it to be in the environment, and you hear that through the environment. And also, these filmmakers, Benson and Moorhead are their names. They're known for making these, like, really well written, considerate horror films. I would honestly say they're like students of Fessenden, in terms of, like, the
Oh,
types of
they're
horror
endless
films they make.
guys.
Sorry?
They're the
Yeah, they made
endless guys.
Endless.
They
Yeah,
made the
they made
endless
Endless.
series. Yeah.
I really liked Summer. Summer is like almost like a a Before Sunrise or Before Sunset if it were a horror film. I like the fact that they have these unprofessional actors who are just skaters, right? But I feel like they're given nothing to do, and what I want from these filmmakers is something that's a bit deeper, and it really is so surface level. So that's a lot of where my grapes are. Again, sorry for ranting. I don't know why I'm ranting so much on this episode.
No, no. I mean, you're very
Good.
passionate. I love that. I know. I just agreed. I should have been at 9. I love that. It looks so washed out and so simple. Again, simplicity. I like that. I like that because it's stark. I think it adds to the humor and the brevity and the levity of it all. I like that. This feels so silly. I mean, I think it's one of the times where, like, the humor of a segment actually works for me. In just a general sense. Like, I like that they don't, like, these guys are so self-involved and just self-centered. Like, oh man, the camera guy and got killed, or oh my god, cat bear guy got knocked down. Like, they don't give a shit about these other two guys. They're just other than each other. They just, of course, he goes back for him, and then the other one, and they just kind of go away. But they don't give a fuck with the other two that just died or injured. They're great. I love how shitty they are.
I like how much their cameraman sucks. Like the cameraman just fucking is an asshole the entire time, and the reason that those two get so close to one another is because of how much the cameraman sucks, right?
Yeah.
And something I said before was that these were unprofessional actors and I did. Sorry, I got the hiccups, so I was trying to hold it back. So the thing about these actors is that they're actual skaters first, and a lot of the dialogue is improvised, and I like that in concept. I just feel like the execution, like, I feel like Benson and Moorhead should have had more for them, for this to really be sold, and it feels like they're being let down. The actors are being let down is how I wanted to phrase it.
No, I definitely agree. I don't know. I just, even with that, I feel like even with some of the better ones, not some of the best ones, but even some of the better ones that I enjoy, that's always gonna be an issue, just because, like, the format of VHS, because, like, we've talked about, like, ones like Ryan the Park, or like the sick thing that happened to Emily, or Safe Haven. Like, no, not maybe not Safe. I think Safe Haven is, like, pretty fucking tight. But one of those ones, like, what, there could have been more here, or more character work there, and I feel like it's usually just not enough time. I don't know what I would cut from Bone Storm. I wish there was more. That's just it. I wish there was more. I want Bone Storm series. What happens? These two random assholes getting into misadventures every single segment. Let's do it.
That would be fun.
Go ahead, Jade. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, yeah, that would be fun. Also, I just wanted to ask, I just want to say, I had a roommate in college who really liked Benson and Moorhead's other work, and I've been meaning to check it out ever since. I just never have.
Oh no, they're really.
You're
good.
wondering about, like, other films of theirs?
Yeah, like Resolution and the Endless are great. Haven't seen Something in the Dirt, which I think is most recent one. But
Yeah, no,
Resolution
I remember he specifically told me to check out The Endless.
Like, I've seen Endless, I've seen Resolution, I've seen Summer. Those are the three, right? I would say Summer was my favorite, because, like, Summer is truly it is a before film, but if there was a, like, succubus in the Julie Delpy role, right? I forget what the actor threat is. Sorry, go ahead.
That's an interesting way to put it. That has me really intrigued.
You know, it has me
Exactly,
intrigued too.
right?
I'll look into that soon as well.
And endless is like I feel like endless has a really good like idea, and I like the way that it's kind of played out, but I feel like it's a kind of one and done film,
That's fair.
compare that to like time crimes. I feel like time crimes, you get more out of it every time you watch it. I feel like endless, you watch it once and you're like, I got it. And then resolution, I would say, is probably like their most professional film that I've seen of theirs, and I like it, but at the same time, it's not as inventive as the other two that were listed.
I totally see that. But any other thoughts about Bone Storm other than that it rocks? It's Bone Storm. I've listened to its title, Bone Storm. Any other thoughts before we move on to the bonus segment?
No, not
I
really.
I really liked the villains just being like spirit Halloween skeletons.
Yes, I love it.
Oh
It's
yeah,
so
no,
corny.
it's so fun.
It's so corny. Can't be cheesy. I love it, man. This is
Mhm.
this is one of those things where it kind of feels like, even though people are like, oh, the Shutter ones totally brought VHS back to form. I feel like Viral is like the ideal of what the Shutter ones are trying to capture in terms of their goofy tone. Because I think like the the Shutter ones, they definitely tried like to lean into, at least even with the marketing, or at least most with the marketing, like just how silly and stupid, and well, not stupid but silly, over the top VHS are, like VHS 88, VHS Halloween, VHS 99, all of that, especially with some of the wraparounds and some of the tones there. I think VHS Viral, I think, is just like what those should be kind of hitting the notes of if they were going that route. And I think that some of the weaker ones, in my opinion, for the Shutter ones, when we get to them, is when they just try too hard to be like over the top. You know, I feel like Bone Storm is perfectly over the top. Like, yeah, this is like a teenager's, like, fantasy about VHS, found footage movie. So I'm into it.
I, I just wanted to cut in and agree in the sense where it's like I feel like Shutter shorts, they take the goofier tone to a greater degree. I think you're hitting the nail on the head with that exactly in terms of what Viral does, right? But the problem for me, specifically in the context of Bone Storm and also just with the film itself, is that you're trying so hard, but you don't have the right mix, and then you're also having this lackadaisical approach to format,
Mhm.
and how these things are considered from like an internal logic perspective, to where that stuff really sets me over the edge. That's what makes Viral not work for as much for me, right? And in Bone Storm specifically, again, this should have been at night. This should have been like in a place with a lot of like street lamps, shot on a wide angle lens on DV tape. The fact that it is in VHS Viral and it has to be modern, it pushes it to a place that it doesn't need to go, and because it goes there, it doesn't have the same aesthetics that are associated with the skateboarding scene, in my eyes at least. So like the thing that with the whole film is that it's trying really hard. It's reaching in so many different directions, and I feel like that's the reason why it had to go away for 7 years, right? Because like it tried so hard in so many different directions that it lost sight of what made the franchise work. And even if other entries and other shorts aren't as strong as the highlights of other entries and shorts, I feel like the heart and the structure is ironed out a lot more once we get to the Shutter age.
I'm not gonna disagree, argue with that, but we're gonna see when we get to those, because I remember being bored through most of those, but we're gonna see when we get to those. Obviously, I don't want we're gonna take them each as they come, but we're gonna look at the bonus segment now of Gorgeous Vortex, and boy, is that an apt title! Written and directed by Todd Lincoln. So it's your turn, Tony. I planned it this way.
Oh
Describe what this
no.
is about.
Can I like phone a friend? Is that an option? Can
Okay,
I?
how
Can
about
I?
it? You describe what's about, and then after that, I'll read the Wikipedia description. How about that?
Oh, I would love to be enlightened with that after what I'm about to say, because
Go ahead.
because the reality is that this is a surreal short. This is something that's more about the mood and the tone that it's evoking, where there are implications of what the story is. What we are meant to consume instead is far different. We're taking on an emotional journey rather than a literal one. And you can really, like, you can see why this was cut out of this film from the get-go. This is not a found footage short film. This is just plainly like a professionally shot experimental slash just like plainly formalist film told from the perspective of a woman who has suffered some kind of trauma working within some kind of industry that exploits the image of a woman. And this is portrayed through, there are previous victims in quotations where they're portrayed as women who have been like tossed in traditional murderer locations. And oftentimes what's exploited is their fashion wear. A lot of this is about like heels, dresses, fabrics. It's a lot. It's heavy on texture in that sense. And in that same way, we get these flashes to VHS tape that's also included with all of this. Anyways, like we're following this one woman as she's considering the world and reflecting on previous experiences that she may have had, but ultimately she succumbs to the thing that she's aware of. And in the end, she becomes a part of that machinery. How that's portrayed, we have other women who are bringing her into this world. And then there's also this monstrous masculine creature that's at the center of it that she has to like fight, but then accept the admiration of, or at least she has to laud the admiration onto it. That's what I took away from it. I would love to see what Wikipedia wrote about it, because again, this is a very interpretive piece.
All right. I'm going to say, I agree with everything you just said. That's why I mean, it is very surreal, but I think it is very clear in terms of how it's structured and the imagery that it shows. Now, this is what Wikipedia says, and then this I don't know where they got this. It doesn't have a citation, but here's what it describes the story. A sinister, shadowy organization of gorgeous women led by an inhuman empress tracks down an equally gorgeous serial killer. I don't know what they mean by that. Is like the monster, are you like you said, has national energy, and I agree. The empress and the leader of this gorgeous woman and is like the one we were following, the main gorgeous woman. I'm gonna keep saying gorgeous. The main gorgeous woman, like a serial killer, and was she the one killing all those women because she was jealous, or what? Is this mic on?
No, sorry. I wasn't sure if the thought was done, but at the same time, I agree that it is just such like it's so non-specific about things, but at the same time, it's trying to have a specific statement throughout the whole short, right? And that's the kind of mortal flaw of it, where it's like it's trying to say something so specific that it gets in the way of its non-linear interpretive storytelling. And while I appreciate the way that the short is told, I feel like the way that it's told is at odds with the message it's trying to impart.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, I think you were on the money about all of it. That's exactly what I took away from it. I'm just wondering, like, what the fuck does Wikipedia mean? Is that like a monster or a woman? Where did they get that from?
I want to know what Jade thinks about this. Jade, what are your thoughts
on Gorgeous Vortex?
Oh,
too gorgeous. I agree.
Two Vortex?
Too gorgeous, two Vortex. Anyway, go on, Jade. Sorry.
I couldn't really decipher anything that was happening here. I was just kind of looking at it, being like, this looks cool. Like, I don't know. Maybe I just didn't think too hard about it. Maybe I didn't pay close enough attention, but like, I feel like I don't have a lot to say on this episode. I feel like VHS Viral doesn't give me much to say.
You know what? I'll agree with most of them, especially Gorgeous Vortex. 'Cause it doesn't. The imagery and the metaphor is very evocative, but yeah, no, the actual messaging is really muddled. Because you know, I can see why someone might have written that Wikipedia description if they thought the main woman was a serial killer killing all those other women, but it does kind of seem like that. That's I think that's an equally valid interpretation based on the very minimal specifics we're given. I do think me and Tony are more on the money, where she's
Yeah.
tracking down the killer, which is a demon that also enslaves all these other women. That's what I think.
And the thing is that like it's so like it's so but the thing I really like how it's told, right? I do like how nonlinear and interpretive it is. The problem is that it really shits the bed in the second half. Like it really doesn't have to be as grotesquely horror centric as it was in that latter half, and I feel like that's actually kind of the undoing of it. I'm fine with this not being a found footage segment. If this was in VHS, at least the first half of it, right? I would be okay with it because at least Dante the Great did not try, and it did it in a so much more uninteresting fashion, right? The problem is that the commentary just doesn't feel as authentic, and you know it's written and directed by a guy, right? Like it's just not something that really understands the perspective while trying to comment upon the perspective. And as it unfurls, while the imagery it's playing with is very evocative, it does not have a solid final point to stand on to make it all worth it. I said this off mic, right? It reminds me a lot of a Brandon Cronenberg film, you know, and I would say like specifically like early Brandon Cronenberg film. Like this feels like antiviral almost, you know, like there's a very digital sheen to this. There's a very like if it will flip to like in quotations VHS filters, but it's still meant to be within the world of like digital video capturing this and a modern world. And I think that while it has these interesting topics on its mind, it just doesn't have it all fully fleshed out.
I know, I definitely agree. Um, And you know, I said off camera too. We've said a lot. We've been doing this that VHS does seem like a bit of a testing ground for up and coming directors. And it's so funny. Yeah, you mentioned because I thought that this kind of felt the most like an early attempt, early student film. You're playing around with what you can do with the camera, what you can do with storytelling. And you said this is a seasoned director, and one of the last things this person did, and I was shocked. But I think that's kind of humorous in its own way. I didn't mind it. I understand why it was cut, but I do think that Viral probably has like the strongest through line thematically of the three we've seen so far. The intentional, I'm going to say potentially intentional, where all these stories so far deal with celebrity, fame, wanting to be seen, exposure, things like that. And I think that does fit in with those, even though it is just a movie. It's a short film. It's like a real short film. It's not like found footage or anything like that. It's not intended to be anything like that. Even like the ways it tries to like play with form and make look like VHS effects and scratching effects, it feels more like a commentary on that kind of physical media being captured on camera, as like a public figure, as like a model, things like that, you know. Uh, but it's nice. I'm glad I saw it. I don't mind I saw it.
If we're talking about like, because you kind of branched out into VHS itself, right?
Mhm.
And I think like the mortal sin of this movie, right, is its title and its ambitions. VHS colon viral. We've commented upon on previous episodes how there are VHS shorts that take place within modern time. The problem was is that this movie tried to move more in the modern direction when the reality is it should be about VHS tapes. It should take place in the past, right? while I admire that this collection of shorts is trying to be so modern in an anthology context, and I think that VHS is still a great vehicle to do that. The fact that this franchise decided to move in that direction on its third entry, and it was the weakest footing that it had so far, that's where it didn't work for me, right? And like while Black Mirror is not as good as it used to be, I feel like Black
It's way
Mirror has
better
kind of
now.
picked up. Exactly. It's taken up the mantle of what this was trying to do, and I'm glad that it's there, and that it's doing what this was trying to do. And I'm glad that VHS goes more in the past later in the franchise, because at least then it's trying to, pull something that it wasn't, fully building upon within all of the entries that we've seen so far. So those are just my general wrap up thoughts on viral, building off what you said.
No, I mean, I totally agree with what you're saying in the overall term. I just don't see that it's that much different from some of the weaker aspects of the first two, and at least this one, nothing. I and like the second one, like I'm not something that's gonna be like my favorite movies, but it didn't annoy me. I think that makes all the difference with these kind of things. It didn't annoy me. I had fun. It's definitely like fits into my grading curve of horror movies sometimes. With horror movies and action movies and all that kind of stuff, I work on a rating scale that's very binary. Okay. And they both can sometimes mean this is good. Like this fucking sucks and this fucking rocks. I'll be watching a horror movie and like this sucks and I'll be laughing, or this rocks and I'll be laughing. Or so I think this definitely this definitely falls into like both of those in differing tones. But I left off a very positive impression overall. So I don't know if you want to talk about rankings. Here's where I kind of left off at. Okay, Gorgeous Vortex is number 13. Vicious Circles is number 12. Parallel Monsters number 11. And the only one to make it out of the top 10 and into the top 5 is Bone Storm at number 5. It's my number 5. Okay.
Whoa,
So
5?
here's my top 5. Okay, I'm sorry. I had to get Bone Storm because I just smile every time I think about it. Okay. Sick Thing to Happen to Emily, 10/31/98, Safe Haven, Slumber Party Alien Abduction, and then Bone Storm.
I like all the other ones, but then you get the Bone Storm, and I'm just like,
I just
geez.
love its vibe, man. I had so much fun with it. I'm smiling right now, just thinking about it.
You know what? And I can respect it. And then also I respect how Jade is not throwing in the whole franchise rankings, because I've done the same. I'm not going to do that until the final episode. I feel like I'm going to run through all of these when we get to the end, But for me, like when I think about viral, if I were to rank all of these shorts,
Mhm.
I feel like that would be I feel like we should do that,
Mhm.
With this one, I feel like the Parallel Universe Nacho Vigilano one is my favorite. Then we have Vicious Circles at second, and then we have Dante the Great.
Oh, you
at
fucking Dante
third.
the Great. I forgot about that one. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's below part two's opening segment. Like it's okay, but like I don't know, it's not really. It's with the other segments, opening segments, wraparounds. Like it's fine, not essential. Sorry, go ahead.
The second wraparound at least has the cool creature at the end.
Yes.
That makes that one redeemable.
Yeah, that's why I make it higher than that.
But I gotta say, Bone Storm's my least favorite of this lot, and it's not because it doesn't have things that I dislike. Sorry, it's not because it has things that I dislike. It's because it has so many things that I like that it doesn't expound upon. I would like for it to be better. Actually, in Gorgeous Vortex, I would probably put just right above Dante the Great.
Yeah, no, totally agree. Hey, but so Jade, how would you rank these ones for VHS Viral?
My favorite is Bone Storm, then Vicious Circle, then Gorgeous Vortex, then Dante the Grey, and my least favorite is Parallel Monsters.
I respect that. So, and before we move on, any final thoughts before we move on?
Nacho Vigilando watches movies.
Yes,
I will.
So, Next up, then, we're looking into the second spinoff we're doing. Though it's the last official one, we're counting a couple of other ones just to buff these out. But this one is Kids versus Aliens, written and directed and by Jason Eisner, who is adapting his own segment for VHS2, Slumber Party Alien Abduction. And you know what? I guess it's my turn again, apparently. So, Kids versus Aliens, which is the story of these wacky kids who love making creature feature, science fiction movies in their backyard. And in an abandoned farmhouse, with the help of one of their one director's older sister, and they get in afoul of some mean old rich bullies who don't care about kiddie stuff and only like to party and have sex. And then they decide to they want to get revenge on them because they don't like being bullied and them breaking up the gang with by seducing away the older sister. And then aliens arrive and fuck shit up. I really enjoyed this one. I think it's really funny because I'm part of Alien Abduction, as I've said, it's in my top five. I really love that one. And this, I was excited to see, like, hey, they made that into a movie. Like, I was excited to see it. And it is completely different. And it captures the same kernel. You have these little kids, and you have these teenagers that don't give a fuck about little kids. And they're just kind of butting heads until aliens show up. So basic kernel, but while Slumber Party Induction has a very sincere, grounded, very kind of authentic feel to it as like a home video, Kids vs. Aliens is just a flat out cartoon. I was shocked when I realized that Slumber Party Induction was made by the guy who did Hobo with a Shotgun. Like this is so much more like down to earth than Hobo with a Shotgun. I was shocked. And then Kids vs. Aliens is like, oh wait, no, this is exactly what the kind of thing I would have expected for that to have been if I had realized that before I saw that segment. But Jade, what did you think of Kids vs. Aliens?
I wish I liked this movie a little more. I found every character between the teenagers and the kids to be really annoying.
I mean, you're not wrong. I think that this one does do a disservice, especially to the way the teenagers are written. They feel very stock, and I think that sometimes it does veer into very underwritten like character arcs that feel a little bit more trite than charming. You were gonna say
Yeah,
something
that's
else?
kind of how I felt about it.
What do you think, Tony?
I feel like I'm going to be the massive Kids versus Aliens defender, but it's a dirty job, but someone's got to do it.
I really like that. I want to say, but I just feel like some things with the sister felt like, come on, man, this is doing a disservice to the sister's character. It feels too flat, you know.
Well, for me, first off, I wanted to build off of something that Elvis had said in terms of what this movie is versus what the short is, right? So the short is a pretty grounded retelling of what would happen if a bunch of like asshole rich kids were invaded by aliens, right? But then this movie is more of a tone of Hobo with a Shotgun in terms that Jason Eisner as a filmmaker has a really specific I should say, even just like voice as a filmmaker. The thing is that I would almost compare him to like Quentin Tarantino in the sense that he is so much about his own nostalgia, but his nostalgia is so specific and separate from the norm in quotations. Because like I'm Canadian, right? And this guy is a massive Canadian, right? And he's from Nova Scotia, which I'm from Ontario, and you guys from the States, I'm assuming Jade, you're from the States as well, right?
I sure am.
Boom, there we go. Baba Booey. All stateside, right? But it's like if you know Nova Scotia, right? Like Jason Eisner represents Nova Scotia almost in his type of storytelling as well as his priorities, because while the Eisner films always have this streak of stylization, there's always this, approach to visual storytelling that's like important and upfront. His empathetic storytelling nails it every time. And that's something that's actually missing from the original Kids versus Aliens segment, Alien Slumber Party Invasion, whatever you want to call it. I much prefer Kids versus Aliens over that segment because the character writing is so much stronger. Because this is a story about a big sister. It's about like being a responsible sibling, right? And for me personally, I'm an older sibling, right? And I feel like when I watch this movie, it captures the struggles of being an older sibling so much better. And what they put her through, as Elvis was alluding to, it's cruel at several points, but at the same time, what the perspective of this movie is so much more about like understanding what's important to you and building upon that and being the best version of yourself. And then also like what this movie does. I keep on calling this a short. The reason I keep doing that is because this movie is so short. And that's another reason why I like it so much is it's in and it's out. Like it's really inoffensive in that sense. And then another thing is that like the horror elements, while they are not as threatening this go around, I like versus the short, I find that what it's doing here is evoking something entirely different. Where the original Alien Abduction Slumber Party, that was kind of like the McPherson tapes on steroids. This is an Amblin parody. This is making fun of like the knockoffs of E.T. and it's turning it into a horror film. And I really like that. I do like that it's so saccharine and it has this like over the top score. Like the music in this is amazing, wall to front to back, wall to wall. The music really carries this whole through line for me. And also, like Jason Eisner, he's an amazing visual storyteller in the sense that he uses gels and colored, like when I say gels, just for the people at home, like when you have it so you have like these neon colors in the background, right? He layers them and textures them so well to where it never feels like, an other world, but rather the world that the story takes place within. And I think that this movie is actually quite cohesive in terms of playing within its own world's rules. Again, sorry to ramble, but I really like this movie.
No, I definitely agree with everything you're saying because you're spot on the money there. Again, and you're right. Like this one, the character writing is a lot stronger because they are characters in the classical sense. They're very evocative of like of standard kind of character archetypes, and I really enjoy that. I think that they are that they're very poppy. They're very fun. Again, this is the kind of movie that I assumed the hobo with a shotgun guy would make. It's very silly. It's very campy. It's very tropey, but it does it all with flair, with a little bit of a wink, with some excess, but not too much, especially not as much as Hobo Shotgun. It feels like a slightly edgier kind of like campfire kind of movie, a summer party movie, like with the kind of thing you would put on and rent with some friends if you're like 13, 14, it definitely feels like it's trying to go for that. Like you mentioned ET, something a little bit more down key, a little bit more family friendly, but obviously with a bit more of an edge to it. I really enjoyed all of that. It reminded me a little bit of like Attack the Block, for
Attack the
Canadians.
Block's a great reference. Yeah, I like how profane the kids are. Like
I love that.
in this movie. Like how crazy is that?
I'm not gonna say my favorite character is the redhead. Is the little redheaded kid.
The redheaded kid.
He
I
is
really like
amazing.
Jack. I
But
like Jack, the little kid who gets killed. You know,
yeah,
I love him.
he's amazing. But I love the redheaded kid because the redheaded kid, every time he opens his mouth, it's like he thinks he's in an entirely different movie where he's the main character. Like he's like takes like
Oh yeah,
he's like
yeah,
so
yeah.
direct. He feels like it's like he thinks he's like in the standard kind of alien invasion movie where he's like the main character who's like gung ho and very take action. It's so fucking great. He's like the perfect personality for this kind. I love when kids and or kid characters in movies like precocious, but like in a way that's dangerous to their health in that kind of way. I love it. I love it. Got me. You got laughs at me every time he said anything. Don't die on me, man! And this little 6-year-old kid is bleeding out. So good, so good.
Like Jade, you know, we brought up Hobo with a Shotgun so much. Jade, have you seen Hobo with a Shotgun?
I have not. I've seen the original like fake trailer from the Grindhouse double feature, but I haven't actually seen the movie. I'd like to get to it at some point. I think. I really like the short from. It was VHS 2 that the original shorts from for
Yep.
the Kids vs.
You
Aliens.
got it. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I really like that short, and I wanted to like this movie more. It just kind of maybe I was in the wrong mood for it. I just found it kind of annoying.
Honestly, that's fair. You know, like it's pretty abrasive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's the kind of the style though. It's very kind of in your face, very very unfiltered in terms of humor, visual excess, soundscapes. It's like it's very kind of now. This is a little bit more toned down than Hobo Shotgun, so I would be interested to hear your thoughts of Hobo Shotgun. Hobo Shotgun is like that scene in The Simpsons where Homer creates the makeup shotgun. And that's how watching Home Shotgun in my way I really enjoy it. It's like getting shot with the makeup shotgun, and the way Marge looks like after that, like that's Hobo Shotgun. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it a lot.
I think it was Tony that
Sorry,
said
go
it.
ahead.
Comparing this, saying that this was like an Amblin parody, makes me respect it more when I think about it that way, because that is absolutely what it is, and that makes a lot of its creative decisions in that context make more sense. Because I didn't even think about it that way, but. Absolutely, I see that.
Yeah, no, I thought, and even has a better ending than Predator: Killer of Killers, which I really didn't. Like.
I'll go with you there. I know you're not a big fan of that movie, but like this movie is way better than that, I will say. But one thing to go off of the Amblin parody thing that Jade are reinvoking, it's all in the score, right? Like, and also in like the way that the villains are doled out through it, because like while the aliens and the kids are the things, there's also this government organization that's kind of in the background the entire time that's like looking through binoculars, and it's always the same as like the ET gun guys, or walkie-talkie guys, depending on which version you watched. So one thing about this movie that really works for me as well, just based on like the Jason Eisner of it all, right? Because I've invoked his name, and he's a filmmaker that Hobo with a Shotgun is something that's been brought up. Jade, if you get the chance, you should also watch the movie Tree Venge. It's a short film, and it's all about like Christmas trees that go on a violent rampage against people who are cutting them down for Christmas. That's also directed by Jason Eisner.
So good.
Which it's a really good short.
Check it out.
And he also did Dark Side of the Ring, which is like a docu series for Vice. That's all about like the darker points in wrestling history, and that series gets a lot of hate from like wrestling fans in terms of like how accurate it's portrayed in their minds. But I feel like in a stylistic sense, it really nails down what it's trying to do. Like it's an artistic piece. This is all to say that Jason Eisner. And one more thing before I make this final point. In Hobo with a Shotgun, like that idea, this movie of like a hobo with a shotgun who's fighting against like people on the streets. There are many moments where it stops to like have these like tender moments. Like there's a moment where like he talks to a hooker with a heart of gold about how he is like a bear and how that's how he moves through life. and it comes out of nowhere, and it's this like really sappy sentimental scene within this exploitation film. And Jason Eisner, for whatever reason, that's the through line throughout all of his projects, is that he puts in a heaping amount of sentimentality. And I think Kids versus Aliens does a lot of that sentimentality really well.
Yeah, I can see that. It's
Mhm.
worth interesting to note that that's in his other projects because I would have not known because again I haven't seen any of them outside the Hobo with a Shotgun trailer from Grindhouse. I'm gonna definitely look into more of his stuff.
Yeah, Hobo Shotgun is fantastic. Rutger Hauer is so good. The hobo. Oh, I'm just to say, just because I was thinking about it. What I really like about this is I'm a sucker for like two of these kinds of movie types. I'm a sucker for Fright Nights, and I'm a sucker for Monster Squads. And it's kind of merged that kind of stuff together.
Excellent pulls.
I,
This
I,
is
w-
excellent.
I wish it was more of a Fright Night, though. You know what I mean with Fright Night? Like the entire idea of like, you're playing pretend act kind of thing, and then the plot conceit has that thing happen. Like, Fright Night, Peter Vincent is like he's the guy who plays the vampire hunter, but now he has to be like in a vampire hunter role in real life because of these vampires around. So I love when that kind of stuff happens. The Hercules movie with Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, that's a Fright Night, or the Brothers Grimm, Terry Gilliam's Brothers Grimm with Heath Ledger and Matt Damon. That's a Fright Night. I love that kind of stuff. Those are my favorite kinds of films. In terms, some of my favorite kinds of movies, plot types. So this has elements of that. I just wish it leaned more into it. It's definitely more of like a Monster Squad kind of thing, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. Really did.
Well, I'm glad that you brought up Fright Night, right? Because this movie has a similar plot structure to Fright Night
Mhm.
on the get go, in the
Mhm.
sense that like the sister is almost the main character of Fright Night,
Yeah,
and then the
Charlie.
little kids exactly are like the friend that Charlie's abandoning, right? Like what's his name?
Evil Ed.
What's his,
Evil
Evil Ed?
Ed.
There you go. The kids are Evil Ed in Kids vs Aliens, right? And it's a nice play on that, right? But then also like the sister needs to be the villain for a lot of this to work. And I like that while she needs to be the villain, she is going through a journey of self-discovery and finding her own identity separate from trying to really relate to her brother. And while it's all very basic, like she's just kind of like horny for a boy, and that's why she's doing that, right? I like that she's going through this like identity crisis in the center of this. And also, I feel like her arc is so much stronger than the main protagonists of the Terrifier films, specifically Terrifier 2 and 3,
Yeah,
because I feel
Terrifier
like
sucks.
I like the kills in Terrifier 2 and 3, but I feel like the protagonist of 2 and 3 is a pale imitation of what this protagonist was.
I can see that.
Cause like, like it's this like warrior wrestler, like sword wielding person that both characters kind of like admire, right? But then
Yeah.
like in the second half of this film, she embodies that so much more. And like the fact that it's like because Kids versus Aliens is a pretty deceptive title. It's like aliens versus the best sister in the world in terms of fighting against aliens, right? Like she is amazing at fighting, she's amazing at like wielding weapons and defensive strategies, right? The moment that she gets unlocked in this movie, right, is the moment that there's any kind of like friction between the two elements. And while it's fun to watch like aliens come in and ruin this party, the fact that there's this twist of like, but there's something that can fight back against them. That's what gives this movie its edge. That makes it more fun and engaging for me.
And that's what's I don't disagree with that, but that's also um I wish, one things that I wish the movie had played with more. I wish that the kids had more of like a utility in terms of like the conflict, because I saw when you get the opening scene is like the clips from the movie they're making, like all be so fun and cool to see like them use these kinds of little tricks to fight the aliens, but they don't really get into that much, and other than Jack and his giant ball of flamethrowers, I'm sorry, fireworks. um I just wish it had that little oomph to it, you know. I do like all the stuff. The sister is really freaking cool with all the shit she does, but I wish that they had played more of that. And it's not the tone wouldn't have like withstood it. You know, obviously it's a very over the top tone, so I do feel that is a slight missed opportunity, slightly. I enjoyed it overall though.
I don't think you're wrong in terms of like the ways that the short differs in that, but I also feel like the way it fleshes out the world in this movie versus that short is interesting. You know, like the idea that it's like this ultra rich family that lives like kind of in the backwoods somewhere in Nova Scotia, and they're, you know, absentee. The parents are gone, and the sister is the only person who's raising this kid, right? And the kid has everything they would ever want. The kid has like a wrestling arena in a barn. The kid has like props, you know, to make these films. And when it is this like element of kids making their own films at home, because they are so inept and Jason Eisner's behind the camera and the parents are super rich, it comes to this like soup, this weird soup of all the stuff working really well. Again, you know, like we brought up Hobo with a Shotgun earlier. Hobo with a Shotgun's a million times better than this. Like if Kids vs. Aliens was Jason Eisner's debut film and then Hobo with a Shotgun came later, you know, I feel like people would take him a bit more seriously. This feels a lot more like a lark. And even though it's a lark, I really appreciate what it's doing.
No, I mean it feels like the pilot episode of like kind of good way of like a TV series, like a Nickelodeon. You know, they like you have like the TV movie that begins the TV show. You know, that kind of thing like that. But like obviously a lot more expressive than that is. But it does, yeah, it does feel like you mentioned like a lark that it kind of holds itself a little bit back. I would have wanted to see more. Apparently, you know, because of the way it ends, the kid to just get rounded up by the government and like put into, uh, cryostasis. It's fucking right. There's no luck there. It's so just a little bit cynical, downbeat kind of thing to go. This little kid's dying.
Oh,
Just
it's crazy. The fact that the
so
movie ends
cruel.
on that note, you know, it feels like Hobo with a Shotgun in a way where it like I'm gonna say this not to spoil it for Jade, right? Where it's like there's a turn in Hobo with a Shotgun where it enters another realm, and this movie enters that other realm and then it ends. Whereas Hobo with a Shotgun, it's like it enters that other realm and then it keeps going. And that's probably where the length of this movie really falters. I would have really liked to have seen like another 15 minutes or another 20 minutes where that ending could have played out a bit better. I don't like that we get them thrown into cryostasis. Jack is in cryostasis. I don't like Jack is dead in my eyes. I want to leave Jack dead in that sense because his death really worked for me.
His death is great, but I do love the visual that they put his little kid in the cryostasis, but he still has an oxygen mask on. It's stupid. Oh, this little boy. Um, but Jade, any further thoughts on kids versus aliens that I've been kind of babbling about it?
No, not really. I think y'all covered everything.
Well, if they made a sequel, I would be interested in it, but I don't know if that's ever going to happen. Again, I will say that I felt more impacted by again, like the mundanity of the original short. There's two different takes. They're two starkly different to compare. I've seen a lot of people say, "Oh, the short is better," but like, you know, I don't even know. Like apples and oranges. I can't relate to them like side by side. It's like it would be impossible. Put me into a logical loop trying to compare them side by side.
You're right? Because they're two separate things. But for me, I really like what Jason Eisner as a filmmaker, when he's in his element, is doing. Like this feels more like Dark Side of the Ring or Hobo with a Shotgun rather than it does the original Slumber Party Massacre. And while that short is effective for its place within the VHS films, and that speaks to his strengths in terms of like matching the aesthetics of VHS 2, I feel like this gets to the heart of like what he is as a storyteller in a better fashion. And like I'm not going to rank all the different segments of the different VHS films. I would say like VHS 2 is the best film that we've covered so far, and then Kids versus Aliens is the second best film that we've covered so far. Everything else goes beneath this, I find. I think that like wow, this is so left field in terms of the types of films we've been discussing so far. It does what it's trying to do so well for such a short period in time that I'm okay to give it some kind of forgiveness if it doesn't go all the way in other places.
Yeah, definitely. Because I think it does really work as its solitary thing. Again, it's a nice kind of like actual summer party kind of movie. If you don't like dwell on it too long. It's humorous in a crude, lighthearted way. It's threatening in a very kind of dramatic, somewhat stakes filled, but also very lighthearted way because like the main antagonistic force is like some guy and clearly in just a mask and rubber hands. It's so fucking good. It's just so cartoony. It's a live action cartoon. I can't be mad at it. It's like, oh, I'm mad at an episode of SpongeBob. No, it's 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 inoffensive. I really enjoyed it. It's not great as Hobo for Shotgun. You're right. That is like a masterpiece of a film. But this is nice light entertainment that I think does interesting things within the confines of a family film, a kid film that I think leaves an impact, leaves a lasting impression. Because like when they brown bag those kids, it's like this is like what the fuck, man. The visuals of that, just like oh, the redhead kid like screaming, like that's so stark, and I love it. I love that they just end that on that kind of visual for this family-ish, friendly-ish movie.
I like it goes back to like why the kids are swearing, right? Like there is an impreciousness to how like youth is portrayed, and it's because of the scenario, right? It's because there are these like rich kids who are left to their own devices that they just kind of can say whatever they want, do whatever they want, and because of that, their way of understanding the world is so stunted, right? And that's portrayed best through the sister. She doesn't have a true understanding of like what the adult world is because she's been so busy trying to like relate to her brother, right? And comparing it to Hobo the Shotgun again, right? Like I don't know if I've ever said this on mic, but it's how I feel. It's the best of the Grindhouse parodies. Like
Oh,
it's
you
better
said
than
that.
Death Proof. It's better than Planet Terror, right? Like Jason Eisner is a great filmmaker in my eyes, and honestly, the tragedy of his filmography in my eyes is that he doesn't make more movies. And when I watch Kids versus Aliens, it's like I'm a hamster and I've got a little bit of water coming out of this tube, and I just want a little bit more of Jason Eisner. Where is he? Come back.
Yeah, no. So I think that just generally, I think this is like probably like the most fun I've had a discussion between two of these films.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I think the thing is, because like VHS one, great segment, great ideas for a segment, and then horrifying everything else. The second one, VHS 2 and Siren, enough said, one of the worst movies ever made. No one should ever watch it. Let's burn all the discs that it
Whoa.
exists on. And then we also like, some good ideas in the segments, some bad ones. And then mostly inoffensive, but Safe Haven is like a complete banger. And this one, man, I love all of it. Just corny fun, all on my wavelength, more or less. I think this is really good too this was a great double feature, for me watching these back to back. I had I had a blast.
Yeah, to evoke what you're saying in terms of the conversational pieces, right? I feel like Viral versus Kids versus Aliens, that's like a really powerful point in like mix, in terms of like these far reaching, let's go for broke, we're going to do it, right? I really appreciate that these two different films go in those directions. The thing is that Jason Eisner's Kids versus Aliens at least is like it has a clear idea of what it wants to be, and whether or not you're with that, it's like, okay, you can take it or leave it. With Viral, it feels like it's reaching in so many different directions that it never comes together as a cohesive piece. So while I agree that the conversation points between these two films are interesting on this episode, and how we can feel all those different passions, I feel like VHS 2 is just still so strong, and that looms in the back of my mind the entire time. And while Siren was kind of like, a part of that, and it is the worst, Kids versus Aliens is kind of a good representation of like what a full film of one of these segments could be. And also, like what you were saying about Viral, I feel like you could throw Kids versus Aliens on during a Halloween party and it would kill, because it is one of those kinds of movies where it's like you could like stop watching it and then you could go, wait a second, did a kid just say that? Or like, oh my god, did like a teenager just like punch another kid? Like that's crazy. There are so many little things in Kids vs Aliens where it's like it's twisting on pre-existing genre beats in fascinating ways that don't feel so played out as you would see in other genre pastiches.
No, definitely. And I definitely fits the entire vibe where again, I love genre positions. I love when they're played with. I love when characters are aware or at least within that similar world, so they can go back and forth on it. And I think that it is a fine piece of pop entertainment. Like that is very poppy, very light, except for the parts that are surprisingly supremely dark. And it just kind of, I think it goes up to the edge. The edge. I think the edge of the point of tastelessness it does is when they had that the two bullies, the girl bully and the main boyfriend bully. Just they have that scene where he just she's like, um, oh my god, how do you even describe that scene? Jesus Christ, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Uh, Flesh it out a bit.
Where like they're in the girlfriend's room, mocking the girlfriend, and then the girl
Oh,
bully is like,
for sleeping with the guy is
yeah,
what you're talking about.
the girl bully is like, can I hold it while you're doing it?
Oh,
What kind of? Oh my god, that is I probably the edge of the tastelessness there, and it's pretty galling, but I think it works in terms of just how ridiculously over the top and exaggerated these character archetypes are here, and I
well,
enjoyed it. I enjoyed it.
I wanted to build off of that and just say, like, I feel like that is actually better than the tastelessness that was in the original short, right? Because the original short, it was like there's the kids who are filming those two people having sex, and then they break in and they have the stereo, and then there's the get back of like, the older kids watching them masturbate to porn, right? I feel like the way that it exists within the film is actually more tasteful than what it was in that short, even though in this film you literally watch like the supposed boyfriend pee all over the room of the protagonist, right? And the reason I say that is because like she is the protagonist. The older sister is this through line, and when you're watching that happen at like 30 minutes within an hour long movie, hour 15-minute long movie, like she suffers the greatest indignity, and then she has to rise to the occasion. And I really like it when a film just puts the protagonist down as low as they could possibly be. And I just really like the way that this movie did that.
My main issue is that the character archetypes of the bullies are so over the top that it
True.
does make her feel a little bit like really unsympathetic to me. Like it's like at that point, I understand that everyone's big and bold and it's very over exaggerated, overemphasized, but like like he's calling your little brother like a fucker or some shit like that. Come on, man.
I don't like how she abandons them so quickly, you know?
Again,
But at the
it
same
feels
time,
caricaturish, like a caricature, more less like a character archetype, more like a caricature, which I didn't like that much, to be honest.
look, I would have loved this movie was 30 minutes longer, right? If we had a bit more with that setup, right? Where it's like we understand why the sister wants to move away from the brother so much, right? Because like I feel like the way that the film presents it, you're like, why would you ever want to stop hanging out with the brothers? They're fucking awesome, you know? but the when it comes to the other part that needs to be elongated, I feel like another 15 minutes at the end, like right after they get captured, I feel like would have made this movie a real standout. Like, I feel like people would be talking about this movie in the same way that they'd be talking about like Hunt for the Wilder People if it just fleshed it out in a couple key areas.
No, no, completely agreed. But you know, I think not really much else I want to say about it. 'Cause I think we covered most of the bases of what it covers. Um, and you know, overall, enjoyable time. Enjoyable time. I definitely recommend it more than Siren. You know, if you're into like that kind of expressive, over stylized, over exaggerated genre pastiche, Hope of a Shotgun, and all of that, I'd say it's well worth your time. Definitely well worth your time.
Hell yeah, I agree.
All right. So, any last thoughts on both of these before we kind of hang it up?
I think I'm good. Thanks for the recommendations for different movies throughout the stream from the different directors involved. I'll check them all out.
No problem. And let's see here. Let's see. Let's see. So before we head out, why isn't this okay? One sec. Here we go. So, Tony, why don't you tell us where they can find you and, you know, give us your last thoughts and sign off there?
Sure, yeah. Man, I never get used to this. Every time you pull up my profile, I'm just like, geez Louise. but yeah, you can follow me at poor old Rolo Tony on Twitter. You've got me here on the Unsourced Wall Radio going through the entire VHS franchise. And then you also got These Guys Got Juice, the podcast that Doug hosts. And I'm there next week. We'll be talking about Spriggy and Super, the James Gunn film, as a double feature. And I'm really excited to do that. And then also you can find me at In Films We Trust. I'm doing a Larry Fessenden mini series with those lads from Scotland. We're doing a full episode on his unsung masterpiece Beneath, starring podcasting's own Griffin Newman from the Blank Check podcast.
Hell yeah.
Must listen podcasting coming up very soon.
And so, Jade, I know that your, you know, the page is like locked. I'm not sure if you want me to pull up it on my end or anything like that. That's totally fine. If not,
Don't worry about it.
no problem. But you know, anywhere that they can find you in case they look on your socials, nothing like that.
Um, I do have a YouTube. I have a couple YouTubes. Um, they're just for different things. There's 032 videos, which is for archiving different things. There's like entire episodes of like TV shows on there. Um, there's a that's like the main one I use. That's where I post like all my film related stuff, pretty
That's
much.
cool. That's cool.
I post like DVD bonus materials on there.
Oh hell yeah! Like what kind of DVD bonus materials?
Deleted scenes, behind the scenes documentaries, stuff like that, just from like random DVDs in my collection that I'll look and see if they aren't on there. I was doing movie reviews for a bit. I didn't really go far with those. I'm not really great at talking about movies. I guess it just didn't work out for me. I did do a top 10 worst movies of 2024 on there. That did decently well.
That's cool. It's cool. But so thank you for joining us here when we talked about VHS Viral and Kids versus Aliens. Next week we're heading straight into the Shudder era with VHS. What the hell is it called? 94.
94.
Yes,
Hell
90.
yeah.
The
Hail Rotma!
oh, this is the one with the ones I don't like. Oh,
Oh man.
big.
It's why I love podcasting with you, Elvis.
Okay, so and also I guess I think we agreed on doing Devil's Due next week as well.
Oh, hell yeah.
All right, let's do Devil's Due then. Okay, so we're gonna do Devil's Due and that next week. Thank you for joining us, Jade, and let's say good night.
Good night, everyone.
Goodbye.